Josh Hammer and a rabbi who lives in Israel. Like there was nobody else available. You know what time it must have been in Israel for him to organize this call? Why is he doing it with this rabbi? Was it Wolicki, whatever his last name is? You're not going to just call like Dennis Prager, who you're apparently writing a Shabbat Shalom book with. It seems a little suspect.
Hey, everyone. So Candace Owens has been talking about me recently on a number of episodes of her podcast over the last few weeks. She's mentioned me, and in her mind, I'm part of the conspiracy of the Israelis taking out Charlie Kirk, because I was one of the last people to talk to him and I had a relationship with him. So I want to play a couple of the clips of her talking about me and just, give my take and share my response and give my side of the story, as it were. But also towards the end of this video, after I play the second clip, I'm going to talk about why her whole claim that I was, I'm some sort of nefarious character connected to the Israeli government that, had something to do with Charlie Kirk's murder is so absurd. So let's hit the first clip. Here we go. So this is from approximately 2 weeks ago.
Organize this Zoom call for the express purpose of trying to make sure that he had all the best answers, the best messaging advice for how to speak about Jewish-Christian relations and the Israel question on college campuses.
Okay, first and foremost, I just want to say he's so full of crap. The idea that Charlie had just gotten back from Korea and was like, oh, please help me, Josh Hammer. You're a complete idiot. Please help me learn how to speak to college students. Josh Hammer and a rabbi who lives in Israel. Like there was nobody else available. You know what time it must have been in Israel for him to organize this call? Why is he doing it with this rabbi? Was it Wolicki, whatever his last name is? You're not going to just call like Dennis Prager, who you're apparently writing a Shabbat Shalom book with. It seems a little suspect. So you're actually clarifying for us something that's amazing. This is a stunning admission, okay? Because we know that when Charlie got off of this phone call, he texts that evening a text message to Dan Flood and Andrew Colbert saying, they're going to kill me. You should have left it at September 8th because now the September 9th schedule is looking a little bit suspect. Let's pull that up. I want you guys to see this. Let's go to September 9th first, okay? So we know, which I've been able to confirm, that Charlie had an appearance in the Will Kane show. That's from his TPUSA office. Erica said that Charlie had the call with Josh Hammer around this time. This is, guys, just so you know, this is Arizona time, okay? That she was getting her nails done around this time. That's what she told me in person. Well, 3:54 p.m., she's referring to the chat. Charlie sends out that text message regarding leaving the pro-Israel cause. 6 o'clock p.m., again, this is according to Josh Hammer, because he says 2 hours later, which would have been 5:54 p.m., 6 o'clock p.m., Josh Hammer and this rabbi that literally is based in Israel have a Zoom call with Charlie. So he sends a message, the chat explodes, people are pulling out their money. He's saying, I have no choice to abandon the pro-Israel cause. Then this rabbi stays up and Josh Hammer stays up. They have a call with Charlie about talking points to do what he's done his entire career, because he doesn't know how to do this himself. He's turning to Josh Hammer, who he does not have a great relationship with, to help him massage out his points. Okay. He's getting messages from Bob Shillman. Everyone's pulling out their money. And then we know that after that, he's going to have dinner with Erica and the kids and a priest to pray over him, according to Erica. We are told that that prayer is related to a Jezebel article that published. By the way, I actually don't believe that at all. I'm just going to put that out there. Like, just because of my relationship with Charlie and how much we texted about ridiculous articles and laughed at them, for me to think that suddenly on some feminist website, somebody wrote something saying they bought an Etsy spell that would send him so over the edge that he would call a priest doesn't pass the sniff test for me. But we just looking at the schedule. He's fighting with Jewish donors. They're taking out his money. Bob Shillman takes out his money. He then schedules this call with a rabbi and Josh Hammer. No, they were talking him off of the cliff. He's in the chat. He's saying, I want Candace back. Confirmed. This happened on September 9th now. I want Candace back. I want to have her. He's also texting other people saying, I want to have Candace back. Confirmed on September 9th. Now you've got, a panic call. Come on, just talk. Let's talk through this. Don't bring Tucker and Candace. Let's talk through this. He's not looking to debate with a rabbi. Hey, help me debate. This is asinine. They want us to believe he needed a rabbi, a priest, and a pastor in the last 24 hours of his life, all helping him with talking points. Okay. So then get that schedule back up. He ends this call. He has to have dinner in this hour, which I've confirmed. He did have dinner with his family and the priest to pray over him, this priest, at dinner. And then he messages Dan Flood and Andrew and says they're going to kill me. But he was obviously talking about the trannies. His day was being impacted by Israel. He was referring to Israel when he said that.
Okay, so first of all, at the beginning there, where she says, you know, what, he's talking to this rabbi to get talking points on Israel. How come he couldn't just go to someone like Dennis Prager? Now, let's just get this out of the way. Let me explain my relationship to Charlie, and it'll hopefully this will make some sense, just in case you're believing Candace's theories. So, yes, I'm an ordained rabbi. I am a rabbi. I'm also a regular opinion writer, columnist for the Jerusalem Post. I appear there a couple times a month, and those writings are all about politics, all about what is going on in Israel. I also appear regularly on a number of shows in both the Christian media and the political conservative space, whether it's on networks like TBN or on Steve Bannon's War Room. I appeared on the Charlie Kirk Show a number of times. I also had a show. I hosted a weekly show about Israel on the Real America's Voice network for about 6 months back in 2024. It was a pilot. And the Real America's Voice network, in case you don't know, that's the same network that Charlie Kirk's show is on, that Steve Bannon's show is on, that Jack Posobiec's show is on. It's the MAGA network. And I had a show on that network, and I also appeared on their morning show regularly. So all of those appearances are all about politics. I'm a political commentator, besides the fact that I am a rabbi. Now, if Candace had simply Googled my name, I'm pretty easy to find. If you Google my name and just see what I do, you'll see that that is what I do. So this, you know, just painting it as, oh, he's got this rabbi, he's got this rabbi, he's got this rabbi. The fact that I'm a rabbi is not really relevant to this conversation. Charlie used me as a resource from Israel. Now, why wouldn't he just go to Dennis Prager? Okay, Dennis Prager is a Jew. He's an American public intellectual. He's written some wonderful books, and he does talk about Israel, but he's a thinker who's American and talks about America most of the time. The entire reason I had a regular relationship with Charlie was that Charlie liked to stay informed about every topic that he covered, okay? And with all of the conflicting information and different opinions flying around about Israel, Charlie created a WhatsApp group, the famous WhatsApp group. He created a WhatsApp group to discuss Israel issues, okay? And in the WhatsApp group, he put a couple members of his staff and some people that he knew that he trusted on the Israel issue. And when he was putting the WhatsApp group together, he wanted to actually have a person from Israel in it. Oh, wow. Why would he have this rabbi from Israel? The reason is because he wanted, if he's going to cover an issue and he's going to talk about an issue, he doesn't want all of his information to come from people who are far away from the issue. Okay, he wanted to actually have a source on the ground in Israel who knows the politics, who knows what's going on there, but he also was looking for someone who understands his political viewpoint, who understands MAGA, who understands America First politics, and that he could trust. And because he knew me, and because he knew of my relationship with other people in the MAGA movement, he was aware of my close working relationship with Steve Bannon, and that I'm a regular on Steve's show. Charlie was very close to Steve, and so he was aware of me from that. So he knew me from my involvement in the MAGA movement. I'd met Charlie a few years earlier at Turning Point USA's America Fest, which I attend every year. Okay, so he knew that so here I am a Jew from Israel. I'm an Israeli who understands MAGA, who's also a political commentator, so I'm on top of the issues. That's a pretty good resource. I'm not trying to toot my own horn. I'm not such a famous guy, but I'm out there in public. It's easy to know what I do. And it makes sense that to add to the group of resources about Israel that he was talking to, I was part of that conversation. Okay, so they go, why doesn't you just go to Dennis Prager? Look, Dennis Prager's wonderful, I guess, whatever you think of Dennis Prager, but why he wanted someone from Israel who has his finger on the pulse of the politics there. So that's why I had this relationship with Charlie, and that's why this was put together. Now, as for the Zoom call she's talking about, what she's referring to there is a Zoom call that Charlie had the night before he was killed about Israel. Now, why did he have this Zoom call? So first of all, this Zoom call was not a sudden Zoom call. It wasn't an emergency call to talk him off the ledge or anything like that. This Zoom call was on the schedule for weeks in advance. And it was put on the schedule by Charlie because it was the night before he was starting his next campus tour. Now, a lot of people don't realize that a huge number of the questions that Charlie would get asked on his campus tour were always about Israel. And he hated that. It drove him nuts because he was there to talk about America, and he would get asked all these questions about Israel. It was something like half the questions he got asked were about Israel, and he wasn't an expert on Israel. So he wanted to prepare to go out on campus and talk about Israel. I wasn't giving him talking points, but what he did was, in advance of the call, his staff provided me with the most commonly asked questions that he got about Israel, and then I prepared information about it. He didn't accept every point that I made. That's fine. That's not what it was about. But he wanted to talk through the talking points. And there were a number of people on the Zoom call. Josh Hammer obviously was on it. He said that, but it wasn't just me and Josh Hammer. There were a number of people there. I'm not going to say who they were because it's not my place to disclose who else was on the call, but there were some other people from Charlie's staff. There were people there on the call, and we were going through and talking through these issues, and me, as the expert from Israel, was providing my insight on these issues. That's what the call was about. It was called by Charlie. It was on the schedule for weeks. Okay, so that's what that call was about. That's what my relationship with Charlie was. That's why I had a relationship to Charlie. Let's take a look at the second clip now.
The day before, as we know, Charlie messages a group of people and says that he is abandoning the pro-Israel cause, and he means it, okay? He's also texting people who work at Turning Point USA, and he's saying he wants Candace back at AmFest that year after the Zionist peer pressure to keep me off of the roster. He wasn't allowed to have me. Charlie's done. He is done. That's now a fact. He signals to his troops that he doesn't care about the money, does not care about the money anymore. He wants them out. He then has what looks like an emergency Zoom call with Rabbi Wolicki. Now, I want you to bear in mind, this is 4 a.m. in Israel. Rabbi Wolicki lives in Israel. It's 4 a.m. and he's going to jump on this call with Charlie. And he was just on this chat. He was on.
Okay, before we go on, let me just throw this in. I was in Buffalo, New York. I travel a lot for my work. And I was speaking at a church, a pro-Israel church up in Buffalo, New York. I do a lot of speaking in churches on behalf of Israel. And so it was not 4 a.m. in Israel. Thank you very much, Candace.
On the chat 2 hours earlier before this call, when Charlie said that he would no longer be bullied by Jewish donors who play into all of the stereotypes, that chat, that notorious chat, which also featured Josh Hammer, okay? Josh and the rabbi, 2 hours later, are going to jump on this call. And later on, after Charlie was assassinated, Josh and Erica, in a different time, to my face, they're going to say that chat was really not a big deal. That chat wasn't a big deal. Charlie was just blowing off a little bit of steam. He didn't mean it. He never once blinked on his support for Israel. Now, according to Josh, that 2 hour later call, that was just because Josh Hammer's brilliant. He's a mentor. He was a mentor somehow to Charlie when it came to debating, and he really just needed some good talking points. He was angry at Israel, but he was just blowing off some steam, and then he was back and wanted to focus on these talking points. And so apparently he needed Josh Hammer, and he also needed this rabbi all the way in Israel who agreed to wake up at 4 a.m. his time to help Charlie with talking points to college students. It's not exactly doing some main stage event up against some big political player. He needs help debating college students. So never mind the fact, let's just park aside the fact that Charlie was known as a boy wonder for doing just that. That's how he made his name, debating college kids. This time, for whatever reason, he needed some pointers, and these were the two that were best suited for the job. Okay. What we know happens thereafter is Charlie concludes this call with Josh and the rabbi, and then he sends off text messages to his security chief, Dan Flood, also to Andrew Colvett, and he says to them that they are going to kill me. Who is they? Well, Erica wants us to believe that he was referring to the left, or maybe even an Etsy witch, right? Some Etsy witch who put a curse on him. Because don't forget, we were also told that the definitely not at all Catholic Charlie had a priest come over and pray over him as well after he has this debating pointers handed to him. and texting people saying he's going to die. He also was not at all Catholic and needed a priest to pray over him. And by the way, don't forget, he also apparently had no fears the next day, Erica says. She has his phone, but we had a priest praying over him. We have a declaration that he's abandoning the pro-Israel cause and that he feels that he is being bullied and he's done with it, and that Jewish people play into all the stereotypes. But we are also told that he had no fears the next day. Actually, he went to bed and he was just excited. He was elated. He couldn't sleep because doing college campus events was so brand new to him that he felt like a kid on Christmas morning. I'm just going to jump in here and tell you that's a lie.
All right. So here Candace is saying that, like, oh, this is absurd. He's consulting with this rabbi. Okay. Candace does not know how Charlie prepared all of the issues that he talked about, both for his show and for debating with college students. He was a relentless preparer and he was a voracious reader. He was also a very busy person. So Charlie had people that he relied on who were experts in all the different issues that he covered, that he relied on to talk through every single issue that he dealt with. Okay. And so this group chat about Israel is just one of many chats that Charlie had to talk about different issues. Okay. He didn't rely just on himself. Okay, maybe Candace relies just on himself, but Charlie he had a lot of people in his life, mentors on different issues that he dealt with. Okay, that's number one. Now, and I already mentioned the fact that it was not 4 a.m. I was in Buffalo, New York. I was stateside, and that this meeting had been planned for a while. Now, let me explain Charlie's position on Israel, because now you can take my word for it or not. Candace has seen a couple screenshots that were sent to her by Andrew from that chat from that day. And that's how she knows about it. That's how she knows about that chat group. But I was in constant conversation with Charlie, again, as a resource for him on Israel. He would ask questions. He would want there be a headline. He'd want to check in on it, see what the Israeli side is. That doesn't mean he accepted my talking points. It was just, I was just providing our side of the story for things. Okay. Now, my understanding of Charlie's position here was this. If you go back to the Student Action Summit in July, and that's where all this stuff blew up. That's where this whole thing started, with the donors getting upset at him, where Tucker Carlson gave a speech there that was quite anti-Israel and quite anti-Jewish. It included like a harangue about Bill Ackman and the Mossad and Jeffrey Epstein. He gave a speech that really upset a lot of Jews. And that's when he started getting a lot of heat to cancel people, to cancel Tucker Carlson. That was what was going on. And I was actually on the side of saying that he shouldn't cancel anybody. I'm not into canceling people's voices. I don't think it's productive. I don't think we gain much from it. That's another topic for another time. But I even wrote, so when all that criticism was happening, when the Jewish community was criticizing Turning Point and Charlie for platforming Tucker Carlson, I wrote an opinion piece in the Jerusalem Post. Actually, it's right here. Let me pull it up. Here, I wrote an opinion piece in the Jerusalem Post defending Charlie Kirk for platforming these people. And in it, I talked about the fact that we can't have this purity test. We can't be, insisting that people, agree to everything Israel says in order to platform them, and that we have to be smarter about it. This isn't about political purity test. The pro-Israel movement cannot afford to demand absolute ideological conformity. And this was a case that I was making in my column, in this column that I wrote in the Jerusalem Post. Okay. And around that time, I also appeared a couple times on the Charlie Kirk show. This was all part of my defense of Charlie for platforming people like Tucker Carlson. I never called for him to cancel any voices. Now, Charlie did not agree with the things that Tucker said about Israel. Charlie had his questions. He had his criticisms about Israel, and that was all part of our daily conversations. But Charlie was opposed to Jewish donors who were, he felt, bullying him to cancel people. That's what he was upset about. It never affected his views of Israel's actions or the conflict with Israel. It didn't make him choose the other side. It didn't make him anti-Israel. He was uncomfortable with Prime Minister Netanyahu. So are like half of Israelis. And he had his criticisms for Israel, but it was mainly a criticism of the Israel the Israel wing that would, number one, attack him for platforming Tucker when he's out there on college campuses defending Israel all the time, and he did. People didn't know how often he got asked questions about Israel, so that infuriated him. And at the same time, he had, again, he was not going to back down off of platforming people. So he didn't want to cancel Tucker Carlson. These Jewish donors were not blackmailing him. They just basically said, we don't want to fund something we don't believe in. And if you're gonna platform prominent speakers who are against our interests, we're out of here. So that's what that conversation was about. Charlie was upset about it. It's true. And I have to say that earlier in the day, when Charlie sent out that text message saying, I'm done with the pro-Israel movement, I'm going to invite Candace back, because this Jewish donor pulled out. From my perspective, I remember reading the text thinking to myself, I wonder if he's going to cancel our Zoom meeting tonight. Because again, this Zoom meeting to talk about Israel the night before his campus tour was on the schedule for weeks. They'd given me all the questions to prepare, and I was getting ready for this meeting that I was going to have. And I thought, okay, maybe he's serious. Maybe he's abandoning the pro-Israel cause, and we're not even going to have our meeting. But he wanted to have the meeting anyway. So we had this meeting. Now, here is the thing that I said at the beginning that I'll really point out the big problem with this whole theory of Candace's. So, Candace is a master of walking up to the line and not saying the next thing, but allowing you to take the hint. It's very smart. She's sharp, and there's this implication here that I had something to do with his murder, that maybe I'm kind of some sort of Israeli agent. And in fact, there are some conspiracy theorists on the right who have jumped on this, and they've even referred to me as a Mossad agent, right? Charlie Kirk's handler, Israeli agent, Rabbi Pesach Wolicki. And this is all based on the fact that we had this Zoom call the night before. But what's the problem? The problem is that if that's what makes me a Mossad agent, then I'm the dumbest Mossad agent in the world. Why? Well, how does everyone know that this Zoom call took place? How does everyone know about it? How does anyone know about it? You know how? There's only one way. I told everyone about it. The only source, first of all, no one else other than me and Josh Hammer have ever said publicly that we were on this Zoom call. And after Charlie was killed, I gave an interview to the New York Post. Okay? Here's the interview I gave to the New York Post. It's up here on the screen right now. Here. This is a story in the New York Post from a couple days after Charlie was killed. Charlie Kirk and Rabbi Powell talked hours before his death. Okay? And there's a picture of me and Charlie, and there's Jack Posobiec in the background, and that's a picture taken a few years ago when I first met Charlie. And I talked about this Zoom call and what it was about. Josh at that point had never said anything about the Zoom call. And in fact, before I gave the interview to the New York Post, I consulted with Josh to make sure that he'd be okay with me mentioning this Zoom call. And he said, fine, go ahead. So I told the world about this Zoom call. That's the only way anyone knows this Zoom call existed. Okay. So if I had something to do with the death of Charlie Kirk, why on earth, like if Candace's story is right, that, the call didn't go well, and then the next day he was dead, and why on earth after his death would I tell the world that I had a Zoom call with Charlie Kirk the night before he was killed? That would be the dumbest thing I could do. I should be fired if I was some sort of agent. There'd be no incentive whatsoever for me to publicize the fact that Zoom call took place after Charlie was killed, and there were already some crazy people on the right saying that Israel was involved in it. It would be a very dumb thing to do. And it was only after that Josh also started talking about the Zoom call. Anyway, so sometimes things are actually what they seem, I had a relationship with Charlie Kirk. I was doing what I do for a living, which is I'm an expert on Israeli political issues. It's what I do. I write, like I said, I write regularly for the papers. I appear in media all over the place. I have also been involved with the MAGA movement at a pretty high level since the beginning. And I know a lot of people in the movement. And that's why I had a relationship with him. And these are all things that Candace could have known. So instead of just saying, see what she does in her podcast, she said, oh, this is some rabbi in Israel, as though I'm some obscure person that no one's ever heard of. Again, I'm not the most famous person in the world, but just Google me or ask around. People around her knew who I was. Charlie knew who I was. Steve Bannon knows who I am. We work closely together. I'm a regular on his show. Like she could have figured out very easily that I write in the Jerusalem Post about politics multiple times a month, and that I appear on shows in the America First movement all the time. She could have known this easily. Maybe she does know it. Maybe she doesn't. But she paints it as though there's something nefarious about this obscure, dark figure, this rabbi who he met with the night before. Again, the only way anyone knows that I met with him the night before is because I told everyone that I met with him the night before. I gave that interview to the New York Post. So it's all ridiculous. But it serves her purposes, inventing stories about Israel. Candace Owens, even this video I'm making now, she's so famous right now and she's so prominent right now, mainly ever since she turned against the Jews and turned against Israel. It's good for business to attack Jews and to attack Israel. So listen, I'd be more than happy to talk to anyone. If anyone wants to talk to me further about this issue, I'll make myself available. But I just felt like, she's talked about me a number of times and I have never said anything about it. And I figured I would finally just put something out there and just respond to everything Candace has been saying. I hope you've finding these videos helpful. Please share this and, share it around because, we have to push back on all this nonsense and all these lies. God bless.